There are a bunch of really powerful builds that you can make around each class in Enshrouded, but with this video, I wanted to give you what I think is not just the best build, but also a build that is fun to play, plus remains one of the best whether you're playing solo or with friends. Thank you to Enshrouded for sponsoring this video and allowing me to play Update 8 early so that I could bring you this video in preparation for Enshrouded's 1.0 release. I highly recommend checking it out, and it's been a ton of fun to play, so click on the link down below to play Enshrouded for yourself. Oh, by the way, this is a two-handed greatsword, I guess kind of like a barbarian warrior hybrid melee build, but you can easily just adjust this to focus more on other two-handed weapons if you don't want to use a greatsword or change your mind, or even just one-handed melee weapons like one-handed swords. This build will also sometimes make it feel almost impossible to die, or at least a lot harder, since we're also healing from like everything. Don't forget you can respec to reset your skills by just approaching a flame altar and selecting the option to select and refund specific skills, or you can just reset all of them to get a fresh skill tree. This makes it fairly easy to try different builds and to just have fun with them. For our armor, we'll go over end game high-level armor sets as well as early game. And early game, you just want to craft the best armor that you can craft at the blacksmith as soon as they become available. The Rising Fighter armor is the first real armor with any buffs that we really need, like melee and crit chance, from the helmet and the gauntlets. Then just keep going in order from the adventurer armor, the mercenary armor, the soldier armor, and then a little later game you'll want the mountain shadow armor. All of these armor sets are craftable again at the blacksmith. If you happen to find any better armor pieces out there as a random drop, awesome, you should use that instead. But we're mainly focusing on armor that comes with enhancements to our damage, plus any health and stamina buffs are also helpful. So we're mainly using armor that gives critical strike chance, critical strike damage, melee damage, two-handed weapon damage, and then health and stamina to fill in those gaps. The best armor late game for this build, probably as we level up into the 30s, would be the Sunpiercer armor. And if you just stick to the complete Sunpiercer armor set, you really can't go wrong. But if we swap a few of these pieces, we can make this build even better. You can craft the entire Sunpiercer armor set at the blacksmith, but it requires some really late game resources to craft. But when you do have those available, we want at least the Sunpiercer helmet for the giant boost in crit chance and crit damage, and the Sunpiercer chest plate for the health and stamina boost. There's nothing wrong with the Sunpiercer pants or shoes. I just find myself needing stamina with this build more than anything else, which is why I swapped those out with the golden bulwark armor pants and shoes to get the stamina buffs that those provide. And they can also be crafted at the blacksmith. The Sunpiercer gloves are also great, it's just that the Greatsword Gauntlets are even better for a greatsword build, since they give us a whopping 21% to greatsword damage, 18% extra damage to flying enemies, which will be the most annoying enemies to fight with this build pretty much, and then 36 parry power and 12 extra stamina regeneration. And we can grab them not from a random drop or having to craft them, but actually over from the Gold Rock Saddle, a late game location found just north of the Veilwater Basin Ancient Spire. And if we fly over here from the Veilwater Basin Ancient Spire and go on inside of the main entrance into this like village area, you can head off to the right and down a couple flights of stairs, where you will eventually, not too far into here, come to a 4-story, I think it's 4 stories, like type of building, where once inside you can head all the way up to the very top of the building. You'll have to go upstairs and then open up a door to continue up the stairs, where you'll eventually come to a hole in the roof, which allows you to jump up to get to the 4th floor through another hole in the side of the wall of the upper floor in this like attic area, where you will find a gold chest. If you open up the golden chest, you will get the Greatsword Gauntlets. The best ring to use for a melee build, probably even more so if you're playing solo, but either way, whether you're solo or not, would be the Gemini ring. Preferably 2 Gemini rings. These are insanely powerful rings that make you harder to kill, since they each come with a 7% chance that activates each time that you hit an enemy to restore 50% of the damage you dealt back to you as health. With 2 rings, you now have a 14% chance for each hit. The great thing about the Gemini ring is that it's not only a guaranteed drop, but you can actually find it early on in the starting region of the Springlands at the Moth's Grove. From the Ancient Spire here in the Springlands, just head north into the Enshrouded zone, the Moth's Grove, until you find the Fell Banshee who will drop it. She's found pretty deep into there, and should be near the destroyed castle like tower area, but she'll be somewhere in this Enshrouded zone. And to get our second Gemini ring, you can come back later to the same location when the Banshee respawns, which as of now should be like a half hour to an hour, I believe, for the enemies here to pop back up. Then you can swoop in there again to grab yourself another Gemini ring by defeating the Fell Banshee once again. You can also use the Ring of the Ancients or the Ring of Health if you happen to come across one of those, or even the Ring of Stamina, but the Gemini rings just almost make you feel invincible. While you're leveling up, just go for the best greatsword or even the best two-handed weapon that you happen to come across, preferably one with cutting damage. But you can even refund some of these skills to better suit another weapon until you have the weapon that you want. If you want higher DPS, which is typically what you want, it's best to have a weapon that has as many damage-related enhancements on it as possible, plus a weapon that gets most of, if not all of its damage from a melee weapon damage type. So you want the weapon to say all or at least most of its damage comes from cutting, blunt, or pierce. Weapons with extra damage from other sources like electric are fine. I mean, if you like that weapon, you should use it. It's not the end of the world to miss out on some extra damage. But if you want pure damage and the highest DPS possible, try to get a weapon with a single damage type, while also primarily, like I said, having 5 upgradable enhancements that give pure straight up damage, which means the enhancement should mention damage, or crit chance. If you've got all 5 of those, awesome. But if you don't mind losing a little bit of DPS, using a weapon that has the life leech weapon enhancement will make us that much more unkillable. So the Horned Greatsword doesn't have that many enhancements specifically related to damage, but it is great, especially if you're facing multiple enemies. Like I said, stamina feels like it's possibly the biggest thing that you really need with this Greatsword build or any two-handed weapon build, and the Horned Greatsword gives you Stamina Leech, which is like Life Leech, except it's refilling your stamina each time you hit an enemy. It's also just insanely powerful. But my favorite weapon for this build is the Shark Tooth Greatsword, because not only is it nearly as powerful, maybe as strong as the Horned Greatsword, but it comes with the Life Leech to just continuously refill our health. Either one of those is great, and the same goes for if you want a higher DPS instead of necessarily Health Leech or Stamina Leech and just want straight up damage. And in that case, I'd go with the Gold Laced Greatsword. This is probably the highest DPS Greatsword in the game. Either one of these 3 is awesome. I've typically been using the Shark Tooth Greatsword, like I said, because the Life Leech makes you feel almost invincible, at least sometimes, but it is not always necessary. Most weapons in Enshrouded are random drops from enemies and chests. If you come across a gold chest, mark it because you can farm these chests every so often. You've got about an hour or so of in-game time that you have to wait before these gold chests respawn, or really any chests. But these gold chests will have the best drop rate for the best weapons that you really want, including the weapons that I went over, like the Horned Greatsword, Shark Tooth Greatsword, or Gold Laced Greatsword. We already got the Gem of Burning from the same location that we got the Gemini rings from, and that gem is fine. But for this build, I think the Gem of Bleeding is one of the best gems that you can really have, because on critical hits, enemies will bleed, and when bleeding, it replenishes our health with the Life Leech ability, which we already have on our rings and our weapon, assuming that you chose one of those weapons. Some other gems that you could use instead are the Gem of Bloodlust, the Gem of Agility, or the Gem of Battle Mania. All of those are really good, but the nice thing about the Gem of Bleeding is that you can get it really early on as a guaranteed drop from the Shroud Lair just north of the Low Meadows Ancient Spire, but I also think that you can get it as a random drop from like any of these Fell Banshee enemies in this region. The Low Meadows Shroud Lair just happens to give it to you as a guaranteed drop. Then as you level up, take it to a Gem Forge to level that gem up, which you get the Archaic Essence that each Gem Forge requires from the nearby Shroud Lair, and every Gem Forge will be somewhat close to a Shroud Lair. That Shroud Lair will drop the level of Archaic Essence that you need for that forge. Just pick up the gold plants inside the Shroud Lair, and that will give you the Archaic Essence. For the skills, the first skill that I think you should get is Double Jump. You will not regret it. If you played the game without Double Jump and then play it with it, it's like night and day. I cannot play this game without Double Jump. And then as soon as possible, preferably for our second skill, I would grab the Merciless Attack skill. This allows us to use an attack that deals 500% damage to an enemy who is overpowered. To overpower an enemy, you just have to fill their stun meter. This is done by just hitting enemies, but you fill up a massive amount of their stun meter by parrying, which you parry by just pressing block at the last second, or really when you see their weapons or some type of glint come from that enemy. Usually it's orange, sometimes it's blue, but do that and you parry. Once you know what you're looking for, it is really easy to do, for most enemies at least. And if you grab the Power Parry skill right next to the Merciless Attack, you get 30% more to your parry power. Your parry power is how much that stun meter fills when you parry an attack. So basically, this makes it easier to stun them and get the Merciless Attack that deals 500% damage, as well as Grounding Hook to deal with the flying enemies, since they're one of the most annoying types of enemies for this build. We don't really have much for ranged damage, but if you didn't want this skill, you could also just use a bow. You're just going to deal a lot less damage than, say, like a full-on archer build, but a bow is still fine. And then also the Giant Slayer Hook for basically the same reason. Just getting to some of these bigger enemies, especially bosses, can be kind of annoying with this build or any melee build, so allowing us to press E to not just pull down those flying enemies with our grappling hook, but also pull us towards those bigger enemies just helps a ton. But then I would start digging into the actual skill tree here. We'll start in Barbarian, go with Strength. For every point in Strength, you get 5% towards your melee damage, so you want to grab these as much as possible. Barbarian's Path, to take our two-handed melee weapon damage up another 5% for each level in it. Then we want to veer off towards the Warrior Tree to get heavy-handed so that when enemies are blocking, their stun bars go up by another 10%. Warrior's Path is one-handed, but we just want it because it's in our way. Then Strength, and then Slasher so that we can up our melee cutting damage. You can upgrade it all the way to level 3 if you want to for now, because then you'll be at 30% extra cutting damage. But first, I would at least go with Constitution here, then Veteran, to increase our crit chance by 2% for each level that you put into it. And then we have Battle Heal, which is probably one of the most useful skills for this build. Now you can go back, and if you want to, you can actually upgrade Veteran. You can always come back for this later, but I think it's super helpful to up the crit strike chance as soon as possible, since obviously it's good for damage overall, but a lot of the things are being buffed in this build from critical strikes. Then I would go ahead and grab the 2 strength nodes here to up our melee damage by 5% for each one. Then we can stay in this Guardian tree, except we're going to go down to the starting skill for Constitution, which costs 1 skill point. Each of these ups our health by 50, but what we want is heavy plates here, 4% extra armor for every skill point you have in here. It only costs 1 skill point for every level, so it's up to you if you want to invest fully into this right now. I say come back later for the rest of those, because what we really want is evasion attack, arcane deflection, and then blink. Blink is one of the most useful skills for any build in this game. Instead of the normal dodge, you have this blink ability that kind of lets you phase through a lot of different things in the game, including enemies or their ranged attacks. And if you grab emergency blink, which costs another 2 skill points, you can now use it to kind of just stop being stunned when you're sitting there in that stunned state. The arcane deflection is really just in our way, but blink does cost mana, so it's kind of helpful. And then evasion attack, which we grabbed because it's also along the way. But this skill is very useful because all you gotta do is blink and then left click, use your regular old melee attack to deal a higher damaging and kind of like quick moving attack. You should come over here and grab Spirit, which might sound weird at first, but then you can get Counter Strike. For every level in this, which it costs 1 skill point, every time that you get hit, you get an 8% chance to deal 20% of that damage back to the attacker as fire damage. It's up to you if you want to put all 3 points into this right now. It only costs 1 skill point. And from what I can tell, this is also working with Health Leech. But then we can grab Updraft. This is extremely helpful when using the glider. I highly recommend getting it. You don't have to, but it's just one of those like essential skills, almost like a double jump. Not quite as essential as double jump, but I would recommend getting it. And then if you feel like you don't really need it, you can always refund it. A really powerful optional skill over here that I highly recommend is Be Gone. This just makes it so you deal insane damage with your hands by almost just instantly stunning anyone that you punch. I highly recommend using it, and if you are, I would just go into your backpack and make sure you have like some type of resource inside of your hotbar here where you want to be able to pull out your fists so that we can just swap to it whenever we want to punch. Just stun the enemy with your hands and then pull out your weapon and finish them off. Now I would come back over here towards the Barbarian skill path, go up towards Athlete and grab Steadfast, Constitution, then Crash Down attack. So we do this really cool attack if you hold the attack button, which should be left click, while in the air after jumping. If you grab Crash Down Force, you can add that to the double jump ability, and now you do 20% more damage with a Crash Down attack. Then grab Strength. I'd also come back here and grab this Strength one first before we grab Athlete. For now, I'm just going to leave it out at level 1 and then we can come back. Instead, we'll grab the Upward Slash attack so that when you attack during a jump, it'll help you get some of those enemies in the air. It's just, I always forget this skill even exists. Now we can come back down to the actual Barbarian path and grab Constitution, then Strength, then the two-handed specialization, which honestly, you should probably grab this one earlier. I totally forgot about it. This allows you to charge up focus on your weapon through attacking enemies, where you'll then see it shining and kind of lit up and down in the hotbar. And now you can press the R key to do your like super special ability. On the Greatsword, you'll see it do this like whirlwind type of thing. It's really cool. It does a ton of damage, damaging anyone around you. Go up to Constitution to increase our health by 50, but really just because it's on the way to a lot of the other skills that we want, like Titan Edge to deal 5% more damage with Greatswords, and then Whirlwind Crescendo, which costs 5 skill points, but at the end of your combo, you'll do the Whirlwind Crescendo, which is like a miniature version of the special ability for the Greatsword, where you just quickly deal a ton of AoE damage. Then we want to grab Barbarian. This will take our strength all the way to 20, assuming that you're at like level 9 of the Flame, or I guess really you just gotta be at level 8 for the Flame. Then I would grab Strength here, Heavy Hitter, for all two-handed melee weapons to deal another 10% damage, Blood Rage, and Relentless. We'll come back over here to where we left off at Constitution in the Warrior Tree, unlock Strength, and then Shockwave, so that a Shockwave triggers whenever you parry or fill up the stun bar on that enemy. And then Breach, so that you deal 100% more damage for 3 whole seconds after overpowering enemies. And now it's up to you if you want to grab the Constitution node here. Then we can come back down here to the Guardian tree. I would just go ahead and grab these 2 extra Constitution points here, then come back around to Soul Leech, Tower, Constitution again, Warden, and then come back up to where we left off at the Constitution a minute ago to Thick Skin, which costs 5 skill points, but you get another point of Constitution for every 2 levels of the flame, and then Earth Aura, which I wouldn't upgrade anymore. I would just buy 1 level of it. So these 2 skills are kind of optional, but I highly recommend Vigorous Deflection to get 15 stamina back each time you parry for every level that you have in it. And then this one is really optional, but Blood Warrior lets it so that for every enemy that we defeat with our merciless attacks, which you should be doing plenty of, it'll spawn a health orb, which restores 10% of your health. It's just one more thing to make us feel extra immortal and really never die. But what we want to do is come up towards the Survivor tree now, grab Endurance, Runner, which if you want to, you can even toss more points into Runner. I'm not. Endurance once again, good Metabolism, which goes even more with the Blood Warrior skill that we just got, so that now those health orbs are restoring our health by 30% instead of 10. Plus your health and mana potions are buffed by 20% as well. And then we'll grab Dexterity just because it's in the way, and Dessert Stomach. This just gives us 1 extra food slot, and if you want to, you can actually combine it with Sweet Tooth and Last Meal. If you want to up your stamina even more, you can grab Endurance. But from here, you just want to go back down to the Barbarian and Warrior path trees and upgrade any of these skills that you already have with the remaining skill points, like Barbarian's path here in the Barbarian tree, Titan's Edge over here, 2 skill points. Now 20% extra damage for Greatswords, Slasher, upgrade that to 30% extra cutting damage. If you don't have level 3 Veteran yet, definitely get that, along with Battle Heal. You should have got those a while ago. I would actually go into the Warrior tree here and grab another Constitution point, the starting skill point here. Come up to Athlete, upgrade that even more. You might even want to grab Rebound for another 10% towards your stamina regeneration. And I'll go ahead and grab Endurance as well. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Leave a like and subscribe for more Enshrouded videos. Thank you to Enshrouded for sponsoring this video. See ya.